All righty, welcome back for another episode of Two Plane Sports. Today, last day of August. It's game week. We're going into September. Labor Day weekend's coming up. OU's kicking off on Saturday. It's been a pretty good week so far. Today's episode, we're going to be talking an update on David Hicks. If you guys have been following us on Twitter and Instagram, you'll know what we're going to be talking about, and there's a little more information there. And then we're going to be talking depth chart. The depth chart is out for week one against Utah. And we've got some opinions and thoughts. And is the depth chart going to be different every single week? It kind of sounds like it, but we'll just take week one's depth chart and we'll just run with it. So, but before we get into it, just want to say we appreciate it. We've been asking to hit 5,000 subscribers. As we're recording this, we are 6 subscribers away. We're just 6. So if 6 of you could hit the subscribe button, get us to that 5K mark. Our goal was to make sure to be at 5K before Brandon went off to boot camp. We're going to beat that by, about 12 days or so. And then we're going to beat before the kickoff as well. So we'll hit 5K hopefully tomorrow. I know a lot of you enjoy the content, or even the trolls. Even the trolls just hit the subscribe button. So like the video, comment on the videos, make sure to stay around for Brandon's end of video challenge. If you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify, be sure to follow the channel, leave us a review on there. It helps out a lot. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook are all linked in the description below. And we've got the monthly membership. If you'd like to support us, that's $4.99 a month. Helps us out a lot. Everything that we get from there, we put back in the channel. Ticket giveaways, various things that we're going to try to get back to you guys. So be sure to check that out if you'd like to. Okay, so David Hicks, obviously the number 1 defensive lineman in the class, 2023 5-star, the number 12 overall player, according to 247, and according to the composite score, he's the number 8 overall player. He's from the Houston, Texas area. He's from Katy, Texas, originally from Allen, Texas. He has announced on Twitter, or I guess On 3 announced on Twitter, that he's locked into his official visit with Oklahoma on November 19th for the Bedlam game. That is his 4th official visit, but first game day official visit, which I think is a big deal. And especially you pick Bedlam, I feel like that's a really good game to be going to. It's always nice whenever you can go be at home against the rivalry. He's locked in his official there. Brandon, what do you think about that? I think that with him locking that in, and I mean, it's August 30th as we're recording this right now, locking in November, and what is that, 2.5 months away? I feel like that's a really good sign.
I mean, it's not a bad sign, and I couldn't think of a better game for him to visit, just because that place is going to be rocking. I mean, it's Bedlam. We're coming off a loss to them last year. We talked about it a couple times in our season preview. I think Oklahoma's going to boat race them. The fact that it's in Norman, hopefully it's a primetime kick. Hopefully the stars align for it, because the fans are going to show out. I think the team's going to show out in the field. As far as if you're trying, I can't think of a better game. Just atmosphere for him to experience in trying to get him. And everybody we've talked to, going back to David Hicks as a player, I mean, he's a top 10 overall player for a reason. We've talked to Parker Thune and Brandon Drum on their show. They're all adamant about how he's going to be a clear day one impact player as a freshman, which is very exciting at a very important position on the field. If he does commit, which I think he does, I think we all think he does. I mean, he makes the best 2023 defensive line recruit class in the country. I've said it before, and obviously I haven't looked at everybody's class, but I think if you get David Hicks to pair with the guys that we've already got, and I know I'm a little bit biased. I say a little. I'm pretty damn biased, but I don't think there's any chance that anybody in the country has formed a better defensive line group.
Clemson and Alabama have really good defensive line classes, but yeah, Oklahoma would be competing with them. I mean, David Hicks is going to be a key, not just to making Oklahoma one of the best defensive line classes, but be competing for a top 2 class, potentially even a number 1 class in the country. I know we talked about it in the last episode, and Alabama's got a really good lead on a lot of top recruits still. Biggest one is Keon Keeley, I think is the guy's name, the one that just decommitted from Notre Dame, he's taking a visit to Ohio State, but Alabama seems to have the lead there. I mean, you said it perfectly. It's the Bedlam game. It seems like it's going to be the perfect situation. Oklahoma should be dominating there. The team at that point should have a good grasp of of the offense, of the defense. Venables mentioned in his press conference by November, it's championship November. He's going to have all the boys should be set at that point. That's kind of the guys that are on the field at that point are really the number ones. We should expect them to be playing most of the game, if not all of it, depending on position. And it hopefully, like you said, it's at least a afternoon game. It doesn't even have to be a night game, but just not early in the morning, because the more time you give the fans to not just show up, but be around campus, I think the more enjoyable the visit's going to be for Hicks. And I would assume a lot more players will be visiting then as well. Like a Cecilia Kana, someone that doesn't seem to be committing anytime soon. Could that be a day that he visits with DJ? Putting Todd Bates in a position Todd Bates and Chavis to impress two really good players on the defensive line.
And David Hicks, he made his debut with his new team, Pato. I think that's how you say it, the school in Katy, Texas. He had 3 sacks, 1 fumble recovery, and a 6-yard touchdown. So David Hicks is an offensive threat now. It's above average, in my opinion, slightly. Only 3 sacks. Not too shabby. But yeah, they won over Conroe 14-3. But yeah, so it looks like he might be an offensive threat. He might rack up a bunch of touchdowns this season, which would be pretty cool. David Hicks, it seems like he's not only being recruited hard by the coaching staff. Derek LeBlanc has come out on interviews and said, I'm taking him to Norman one way or another, whether he likes it or not. You've seen other players come out and say various things like he's my number 1 target.
Makari Vickers, most recently, that's how he finished his interview, I believe. His target was DJ.
Yeah.
You're right.
Hopefully we shove a broom so far up Oklahoma State's ass and he gets to witness that and everybody's just in jubilation and it's so exciting. He just doesn't even leave. He doesn't leave Norman without just making it official, because I don't know. I just feel like it's going to be fireworks that night, and I feel like it's going to be hard to say no, because I think that's I don't know. That's the perfect scenario for him to visit. I can't wait.
Yeah,
for you guys to write to me about it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to write to you. Yeah, I hope it's at least a 2:30 game. If Oklahoma State puts together a pretty good season, which they probably will, and Oklahoma holds up like they should, I would imagine that game's 2:30 or a 6 o'clock kick. I would think ABC is going to want that to be one of their primetime games in the evening, just like last year. Bedlam was way up there, and it was entertaining. Unfortunately, didn't go the way that Oklahoma wanted to, but more 6 o'clock kickoffs and even more 2:30 kickoffs help tremendously when it comes to recruiting and getting these kids on the campus whenever they don't. I mean, how do you play at 7 o'clock at night and then have to be in Norman 5 hours away overnight? By the time your game's finished and you have to be there 7 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, that's just unreasonable to be able to do, unless you play on a Thursday night, because Jackson Arnold has a lot of Thursday night games. That's kind of nice, but at least if it was for me, I'd rather play Friday nights if I were them than having to go to school the next day. But yeah, and it sounds like he might set up a unofficial visit. He might show up for another game. He's supposedly supposed to be taking a visit with A&M at some point, maybe a couple, and maybe one with Bama. It just seems like Oklahoma is ahead right now after their July Party in the Palace visit and the momentum coming from that visit. So it seems like Oklahoma's in a great spot, something we're going to keep an eye on, but everything it's pointing to that Oklahoma's the leader here. Okay, so do you guys have any thoughts any more on David Hicks before we move on to the actual players on the roster? I know a lot of people that are watching this love to talk recruiting. I understand, the potential of all the kids committing, but we got to turn the page. Most of these shows that are going to be coming up over the next 2-3 months are going to be mainly focused on the players on the roster. So now we officially, we've gone back and forth. We've done defensive previews, offensive previews, our projected starters, various things. And we finally have an official one. Whether this will be holding true all year, probably not. We'll just start on offense. Dylan Gabriel, obviously it's no shock. I think the one that kind of caught me off guard, and I will have to eat my words, I thought General Booty would be the backup. Davis Bevel seems to, with his experience, has established himself as QB2. Jose, you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, good for him. It does. I know most people weren't watching a year and a half ago whenever we started the show, but you did predict that Micah Bowens would be the starting quarterback for Oklahoma at some point in his career. And the guy is not on the depth chart. And Venables did say just because they're not on the depth chart doesn't mean they won't get playing time. But at the quarterback position, it's going to be tough to climb three or four spots to get any playing time. Davis, I mean, he proved me wrong. I genuinely thought that he was probably going to be the worst one out of both the transfers and Evers. He had very limited experience at his previous school, and it wasn't good experience. The stats weren't really like popping off, the stat sheet. But coaches have been saying he's been, really good in practice. He's been taking care of the ball. Ball security is job security, and essentially that's what got him to the position of being the backup. Maybe General Booty and Nick Evers can start impressing while they're on scout team and show that they're learning and taking care of the ball a little bit better. But it seems like Davis has secured his spot for this year as QB2.
I still would argue, and I mean, I don't know this to be true for sure, but I still feel like Nick Evers and General Booty are the more talented quarterbacks, and I feel like they're probably both just going to get redshirted. So what's the point in not listing them as 3 and 4? I mean, I feel like it's just, I don't know. That's just kind of the way I feel. Unless we're playing for a national championship or something. If Dylan Gabriel for whatever reason can't play in week 3, I mean, I do think it'll be Davis Bevel. If we're playing in a playoff game, I don't think it'd be Davis Bevel. I think it would be a General Booty or Nick Evers. I still think Nick Evers is the second best quarterback on the roster. I don't know if that means he'd be 2. I feel like Booty and Evers are both going to take red shirts, and that's why they're listed so bad. That's why they're 3 and 4 on the depth chart, because it doesn't really matter.
Wait, you said that you think Nick Evers is the second best quarterback on the roster?
I do.
For some reason, I thought you agree with me that General Booty would be the backup.
Maybe I did. I'm going back on it.
I agree that he would be the backup because he was a good JUCO quarterback, bringing some experience, even if it is at the JUCO level playing. It felt like it would make sense, but it sounds like Davis just is better. Again, ball security. That is what is important. That's something that I thought was cool during. Venables has been doing a lot of shows this week. One of the shows he's been on this week, he went through like the week schedule, and every day has a different name. It's like Motivation Monday. What's it called?
What was it? Mental Monday,
something like that. Tuesday is the one it's like a made up. It's an acronym. It's essentially a made up word, but it's like offense. The goal for Tuesday is offense needs to not have any turnovers, and defense is to cause as many turnovers as possible. That's Tuesday's focus. Wednesday, I can't remember exactly, but there's one day where the job for the offense is to keep the ball in their possession, and it sounds like Davis just excels on Tuesdays, I guess. I think you muted yourself.
Yeah, you're muted.
My fault. Yeah, I guess I did. But yeah, overall, it is what it is. I mean, Bevel, he's had the Division I experience at least, albeit, short, but it is what it is, and we'll see what ends up happening. All right, so we'll move on to the running back position. Eric Gray. I am a huge Eric Gray fan, and I believe in him. And every coach has been saying that he's running back 1. Obviously, he's been listed as running back 1. Second on the depth chart is Marcus Major. I do think that he will continue to be RB2. I think I put a prediction of 600 or 700 yards. I'd have to go back and watch one of the videos that I made the prediction. But Eric Gray, I think I said like 1,200 yards total. And then I think Major, I think it was over 600. I think I put it at. And then you got Tawny Walker or Javonte Barnes. My question to you guys is, do you take any weight into who's listed above on the or?
No, I don't. To be honest with you, I'm not even taking a whole lot of weight into this depth chart in general. This week one, I think these are the guys. Obviously, they're going to roll out week one and start whatever. But I mean, it's listed as of August 29th on the depth chart itself. Ted Roof said this is just the starting point. It's going to change. Venables said the same thing. So the or thing, whatever. But I don't even think Marcus Major is going to be the number 2 back all season. We've been saying it, or at least Jose and I have been banging the table for Javonte Barnes and stuff. I think this is all just it's like fairy dust right now. It doesn't matter. It's Marcus Major will start the season at number 2, and I think by week 2 or 3, week 3 or whatever, it's going to be the Javonte Barnes at running back 2 show. I think that with a couple other spots on the depth chart too, as we get to keep going along.
But I'd argue with you, if he's a clear cut going to jump him, why is he not running back 3? Why is Tahi Walker? Why is he or with Tahi Walker?
Because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter. And I could be wrong. It's just a prediction season. Javonte Barnes is still the number 2 running back on this team by week 3 or 4, at the latest.
I don't think it's that early. But I also, to answer your question, Brahma, I wouldn't put much stock on like who is before the or and after the or. Venables, I think, was asked in his press conference today. He said, like, there's a very good chance that if something happens during practice this week, it's going to be flipped. And Javonte could be, in the RB3 position on this chart. Like, it's like Brandon said, it is as of August 29th. Come September 3rd, there could be a little bit of flips for those positions that have an or between them. And, for some spots, it's not like a huge change like the quarterback and the running back. It's, RBs and QBs 3 and 4. But whenever you get down to and we haven't talked about, when we get into the defensive side, like safeties, there's ors on the starting spot for the free safety and or for 2 deep, the strong safety spot. I think that's where it'll be interesting to see if there's any shift later on in the week.
Yeah, for sure. And it's granted, you're right. It could change in a matter of a matchup or various other things. I just think, while I do think Javonte Barnes will play a fair share. Seems like Marcus Major has the opportunity and the ability to. I don't know. So I guess we'll keep an eye on it, but I think Eric Gray is going to be the constant throughout this entire year. Tight end, Braden Willis, no shock, starter there. Daniel Parker, doesn't surprise me that he's tight end number 2 with his ability to be a good run blocking tight end and potentially going out for a pass. I like seeing that Caden Helms is 3. I think, there is a chance where Caden Helms, he gets on the field for a few packages here and there, considering he's 6'5". You might put Caden Helms out there with Braden Willis to, in a 2 tight end set if you're going for a pass, give you more of a receiving threat in the 2 tight end package. Jose, do you have any thoughts on that position group?
I think I would actually challenge that idea of if it was a 2 tight end to have Braden and Caden out there, because they have very similar skill sets. You can't leave one. I don't think you can confidently leave one back and feel super secure in the blocking situation. Like if a 2 tight end set with DP and Braden, because that if something needs to be changed at the line, Dylan can hold back Daniel Parker and say, hey man, you've got to stick around to block. Like I need you for protection, and Braden can keep going. If you put Braden and Caden out there, you're kind of hoping for the best. I don't think they're the best blocking tight ends that we would have. I think if you had a depth chart where there was 2 tight end positions on there, like you have multiple wide receiver positions, you would see Braden at 1, and then his backup would be Caden, and then the other tight end would be Daniel Parker at 1 and Jason Llewellyn at 2. It seems like Llewellyn, just being the fact that he's just a bigger body, he would lend to be the better blocker out of the 2 freshmen. But it is good that Caden has made an impression, because during the spring game we didn't even see him on the field, or very little. So I'm glad that he's starting to climb on that depth chart.
I think of all the positions on the depth chart, this is the one that will really not change too much during the season. I think it's going to be Willis at 1, Daniel Parker at 2, pretty much all season. Actually, all season. I don't see it changing at all. I think receivers can change at any moment. Running backs will change at any moment. Defensive backs, defensive line. Outside of the specialists, I think this tight end spot is the one that's just going to remain the same all season. Braden Willis is going to be tight end 1 all season no matter what. And I don't foresee anybody hopping Daniel Parker. I think that one's pretty set in stone. That is what it is, in my opinion, at least for this depth chart. I think it's just going to stay that way all season.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think Willis and Parker are the clear cut 1 and 2. I'm just curious to see, does Helms have any packages for him to get on the field, and maybe even spell Braden Willis, in certain scenarios. I'm not sure. So something to watch. But yeah, one of the most veteran groups that we have on this team for sure, with Willis and Parker both being seniors. Wide receiver, the first wide receiver position, Theo Weiss is listed as the starter, Jaden Gibson at 2, Trayvon West at 3. No shock to me that Weiss is a starter. I figured, from what we've heard, he seemed to have had a great, off season, spring, summer, everything else. He's looked apart. He seems healthy going in the season. Jaden Gibson, he's been making great plays, and a lot of people have been talking about him, and rightfully so. He's made some one-handed catches. I see him forcing his way onto the field this fall. Brandon, what do you think?
My guy, Jaden Gibson. Yeah, I was going to say that. I think he's going to get a decent amount of playing time this season. I'm very excited to see him. I feel like we'll see him Saturday for sure. Just because of the nature of the game. We'll see him Saturday, but I think he will definitely claw and fight for some playing time as the season progresses. I don't feel like, outside of Marvin Mims, I really don't think anybody is just going to be locked in all season and safe to be starting every single week. I think there's enough talent, because if you look at the slot receiver, Marvin Mims, he's slated at the starting spot, but Jalil Farouk is slated as the other starter. Drake Stoops is not as a starter. I feel like Marvin Mims is the only one who's safe, and I think Jaden Gibson will push his way onto the field sooner rather than later. Maybe not as soon as I see Javonte Barnes doing it, but I think Jaden Gibson's going to play a lot, and that was a big takeaway that I got from the receiver depth chart.
I'll be interested to see. I don't disagree that he is going to make it hard for the coaches to not need to put him out on the field. But if Theo, knock on wood, nothing happens to Theo and the injury bug is finally gone and he can play the full season at 100% health or near 100%, because football players never play at 100%. Would Jaden Gibson be someone that they would redshirt at, if they feel confident Trayvon West being a decent backup at that side of the field as a wide receiver once we get further in the season? I think Drake Stoops, he's going to get playing time. There's Marvin Mims and him will be, I don't think they'll be splitting, but it would be a situation where maybe they need a little bit more reliable receiver. I could see maybe Drake coming in for Jalil in some situations and moving Marvin out to the wideout, bringing in Drake as a slot. It really seems like Marvin, I don't see Marvin not being out there for most of the game, every single game. Theo Weiss, again, I think he's experienced. He's very talented. Like, the only reason that he's still in college is because of the injury situation he's had. Like, it's unfortunate, but I think he is probably, he came in with that super loaded wide receiver group that, 2019 that came in together. Like, they're all super talented, and he's just had a bad luck throughout his college career. If he can put in a good season, he'll probably be a mid-round pick in the NFL draft next year. But I think there is a world where Theo Weiss being healthy all year pushes Jaden to get redshirted, simply because there's not a situation where he would get playing time.
I think that Jaden Gibson will not redshirt, and there's no way. I just don't.
I'm with you on that. The dude, he's gonna force his way on the field. He's too big, too talented. I feel like you can't. And I understand Theo Weiss is a similar size and similar frame and all of that stuff, but I just why not put 2 6'5" dudes out there who can fly and make plays and do this, that, and the other. And I also thought it was interesting that Jalil Farouk is listed currently, again, preliminary depth chart, which I just called fairy dust earlier, so I'm not going to say it means too much. But Jalil Farouk is a starter and Drake Soups. Jalil Farouk is a starter and Drake Soups is not. We've been banging the table for that almost all offseason.
Yeah, but I would also argue that they don't have 4 wide receiver spots in this lineup because, a tight end is being listed as a starter. So I would almost think that a lot of the 4 wide receiver sets that I believe that OU will run, I think Drake is that 4th guy. But you're all right. I mean, we might as well talk about all the receivers since we're talking about receivers rather than going down the list of what they posted out. Jalil Farouk, he's up there. He's a starter, and on the other side of the field, he obviously had a great Alamo Bowl game. And we talked about are we Farouk drunk or whatever it was. I can't remember what that was off of the JP and Trav show. Obviously, we are not drinking the Kool-Aid. Brandon, you've been bigger on him than any of us, I feel. I mean, it seems like that he's the guy, and that he's really putting it together. I also like the fact, but before we talk about Jalil Farouk, is that JJ Hester and Nick Anderson are and the fact that Nick Anderson, we haven't really heard a whole lot about him per se, I feel like. And he must be pushing a little bit. And the fact that he's listed as an for the second position there, I feel like is big.
Jalil Farouk is good. That's my analysis for the rest of the receiver game. He's going to be good. He's going to put up a good season. I'm excited for Jalil Farouk. Jalil Farouk and Jaden Gibson, my guys.
I mean, I agree. I think I don't agree with Brandon's notion of it. This depth chart is fairy dust and not really one we should pay attention to, because it gives you an indication on who's in the lead. Like, yes, things are going more than likely something will change on this depth chart come conference play, come November, where Venables is going to have his solidified starters by that point. But I don't think it's going to be drastic changes. Like, we're not going to see Nick Anderson jump from wide receiver 3 to wide receiver 1. Maybe he could go up to in the 2 deep, but like there will be small shuffles. But at this point, we're seeing who's in the lead for the positions. That's the only reason I brought the idea of Jaden Gibson potentially getting redshirted, because there's not enough opportunity to give him to play more than 4 games. Not that I don't agree that he's super talented, because Venable said it himself during camp. He's made the most. Like, if you put a 50-50 ball, it's more like a 70-30 ball, because that dude's going to get it over the DB. But is there enough chances for him to get on the field? That's my big question with him, because there's a lot of talent ahead of him at this point.
Another guy I got to shout out, I think is pretty cool. I know he's number 4 on the slot. Gavin Freeman being a walk-on freshman. Just the fact that he's even listed. There's a lot of kids that were scholarship players that aren't listed right now for one reason or another. And this wide receiver room is extremely deep. I think it's pretty cool that Gavin Freeman's on the depth chart, and he passed up a scholarship opportunity at other schools, and he chose Oklahoma. I know he has Oklahoma ties, being a legacy, but I think that's pretty good. Do you guys have any more thoughts on the wide receiver room? Overall, it's extremely strong. Nothing too terribly shocking as far as who's listed out where. Just a few things to make note of, and something to definitely be watching on Saturday with different packages and things. Let's talk the offensive line. Left tackle Anton Harrison started there last year. Not much of a shock. Tyler Guyton, there was a lot of good talk about him, being the TCU transfer. And obviously with him being now as a second string, you see that he is the number 2 left tackle. McCade Mettauer, he transferred to Oklahoma for this reason, come in as a day 1 starter, not a shock. Andrew Raym, been hearing that, he's he's kind of separated himself from Kongal. It's good to see that that's actually what happened. I think he'll take a dramatic step from last year to this year, especially with the strength and conditioning program. Right guard Chris Murray, he was probably the most reliable and stable player last year along the offensive line. And the right tackle, Wanya Morris. We've been asking for him to establish himself as the starting right tackle, and now Dylan Gabriel's blind side. I think he greatly benefited from the new coaching staff and the strength and conditioning coach with Schmidt. He struggled whenever he came from Tennessee to Oklahoma with conditioning and being in shape, and he never really got the ball rolling. But overall, the starters, I think that if I remember right, I think we all agreed on the starters, and I think we named all 5 of them.
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't think there's much surprise looking at the starting 5 on the offensive line. I think the only thing that really is worth keeping an eye on, or is Wanya Morris, as you mentioned. Like, the dude, I think he has all the talent in the world. He could be really good, should be really good even. But you mentioned conditioning or for whatever other reasons, he underperformed his first year as a Sooner, and now he's protecting Gabriel's blind side. I think he's the one who's going to have the shortest leash because of that. And I also think you mentioned Tyler Guyton. I don't know if he's ever played right tackle, but he's had a lot of good stuff coming out about his camp. And Jacob Sexton, too, listed at 2. I think there's going to be 2 or 3 dudes potentially pushing for that right tackle spot if Wanya Morris underperforms again. I think he's the one who's going to have the shortest leash and the most important position on the line.
Yeah, I agree. I wonder if they would ever look at Tyler Guyton on the right side of the line. I know he's listed as the number 2 for left tackle, but they've been very high on both Guyton and Sexton throughout the fall camp and the offseason as a whole. And today, Guyton is someone that Venables called out today in his press conference because he is a transfer. And this is his first full year playing and practicing as a tackle, an offensive lineman. Apparently at TCU, he was drafted or recruited as a defensive lineman, kind of played there a little bit, and then got moved to the offensive line for a short amount of time. So the dude is an athlete, and he's getting the opportunity to be coached by one of the best college offensive line coaches in college, and Coach B. So if he's got the versatility to be a swing tackle, I wonder if that would be a situation where, if Wanya, like you said, if like he might have a short leash, if and Tyler impresses, can he be moved to right tackle over Sexton?
He could be. And I got 2 more thoughts before we move on from the offense and move on to the defense. Jake Taylor, to me, seems like that once Chris Murray graduates and goes to the NFL, Jake Taylor will be the starting right guard next year as probably a redshirt freshman, I would assume, hopefully, assuming that Chris Murray stays healthy all year. The second one this is kind of random, but Marcus Hicks, the recruit out of Kansas, he was a 4-star defensive lineman, switched to offensive line. He's not listed on here, so I was hoping to see him somewhere on this depth chart. So, but he's not listed, but that doesn't mean, it's not the end all be all. So
someone that you've been wanting to see improve did make it to the depth chart though, and Bray Walker.
Yeah, as an or. Yeah,
it's an or. He could be number 2 at the left guard position.
Yeah, it just. Yeah, you never know. Injuries happen, and he might be the starter at some point, or a fill-in game here or there, and hopefully he can see the field at some point. Well, I don't know. I hope the offensive line's so good that he can't see it, but for him personally, I hope he can see the field. Yes. That type of deal. Yeah. Okay, so I know this is going to be a longer video, so made it this far, hit the subscribe button, like the video. So now we're just switching over to the defense. We'll start with the defensive ends. We'll talk about both of them. One defensive end is Reggie Grimes. The other one is Ethan Downs. Both starters, not a shock, I don't believe. I think both of us, I don't know if someone said Marcus Stripling is a starter, but I believe all of us said Grimes and Downs as the starters. I think what's interesting, and I've been reading about it, is R. Mason Thomas has pushed for at least a backup role and probably a rotational role in these games. And R. Mason Thomas very well might be a guy that we look back on that Venables came in and swooped in and took away from Iowa State and Kentucky, because I know Kentucky was also recruiting him, and was able to flip him quickly and make him sign, with the Sooners. I think R. Mason Thomas might be that guy where we're like, wow, I can't believe we ended up stealing him from Iowa State.
Yeah, I mean, he's been mentioned a couple of times by name. I know Ethan Downs singled him out. He's a guy I think is definitely going to push for playing time. As far as the starters with Downs and Grimes, that's pretty much I want to say what we all expected. Stripling as the number 2, but he's still going to play. I think a decent amount. The biggest surprise to me on the defensive depth chart as a whole is the guy I've been banging the table for, hoping to finally see something. And that's Clayton Smith, and he wasn't even listed. So that sucks.
I think Clayton Smith plays a lot next year.
Yeah, I think it sounds like he's having a hard time gaining weight for what the staff wants out of their defensive ends. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's redshirted this year to get him, just to keep him in the weight room with Schmitty to get as much weight on his body as possible. I do agree with the R. Mason Thomas situation, though. I think Stripling and Lualu need to watch out, because if they slip up, if there's even again, knock on wood, nothing happens to them where they have an injury where they have to sit out for a long time. But even if they have a cramp and they have to sit out of practice, R. Mason Thomas might impress enough to jump them in the depth chart and be the number 2 at either position. I believe he's
listed at 4 on both.
Yeah, he's the only player on the defense that's listed at 2 positions. There's a very good chance, and Venables actually said it today in his press conference, I believe, that dude is going to get playing time. So Stripling and Lualu don't stay ahead of him consistently, we're going to see R. Mason Thomas show out this year, and I would bet that the bowl game is going to be his welcome or his homecoming, because we're going to probably see maybe Reggie Grimes leave for the draft, or Stripling just leave Oklahoma as a graduate, or for the draft. Then R. Mason's going to get so many more snaps during the bowl game if it's a New Year's Six bowl that we're in. But if we're in a playoff situation, I mean, maybe he would be an impact player, the X factor for some of the defensive situations.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see, is it certain packages that R. Mason Thomas is specifically assigned to, or how that rotation is. That's what I'm really interested in seeing in this whole team, mainly the defensive side, is where are these rotations and how are they cycling these guys in. But yeah, I agree. I think R. Mason Thomas, he's gonna be the guy that's gonna pop up onto the national scene, that are people are gonna be like, who is this guy? And whether it's this year, maybe not, but definitely in the next year or so. And he very well might be a starter or a heavily rotated guy day one on Saturday. So we'll talk about the defensive tackle and the nose tackle position. Jordan Kelly or Jaden Redmond at the defensive tackle position. We've talked with JP and Trav on our show and their show, and Trav said that, Jordan Kelly's been having the best spring program that he's ever had since he's been at Oklahoma, and he looks great. Obviously, the staff agrees. Jalen Redmond has been, the biggest deal with him has been his health. He's an extremely high ceiling guy. Jeffrey Johnson and Isaiah Coe. Johnson came in from Tulane, transferred in. We expected him to be the starter, and he's an or with Isaiah Coe. I think these 4 guys are listed as ors at the starting position, dependent on the packages that they roll out and just the different personnel. And I think you'll see a heavy rotation between those 4 guys for these 2 positions. I think they're all good, and I don't think there's going to be any real drop off if you have different pairings. I think they're pretty interchangeable, and they'll all be high performers.
I agree 100%. This or isn't like one of these guys is going to be the full, the number 1 going to be playing like 90% of the snaps come November. I think it really is just matchup, conditioning situations. this is just one I think we've all agreed like these four are going to be the main rotation in the interior of that defensive line. But it is cool to see Jordan Kelly get recognized for the hard work he's put in.
Our UHS brother. That's probably why he's balling. He's a UHS guy, man. I mean, it's what we do at UHS is we ball.
Definitely.
That's all I gotta say.
Just like Jeff Mead.
That's fucked. Yeah. Who do we have from Broken Arrow that's been good in the last ever?
Rame.
Oh, damn it. Andrew Rame is a tiger. I forgot about that. He's nice. I'll give you that. Yeah. But other than that, I mean, UHS greater than. I'm actually going to that game Friday night, boys. I think I'm going to UHS Broken Arrow at Tiger Stadium here to check out some of the local talent.
Red Hawks versus Tigers. Is that the new mascot?
Yes, sir. Hey, Brum, do you want to go? I'm going with Jerry and Desai. They're like $5 tickets, babe.
Maybe so. Maybe we'll have to go make an appearance at the high school game and see what we got. All right, so we'll move on to the linebackers. At the Mike position, David Owegbu, the lean, trim David Owegbu. He is now listed as the starter. Interesting there is behind him, Jaron Canick and Jake McCoy are listed as or. Jaron Canick seems like he would probably be potentially coming on the field every now and then. At the will, you've got Danny Stutzman and then Shane Witter. And then at the cheetah, you've got Deshaun White and Justin Harrington. And, for everyone, I remember I made a comment that there was going to be a way where the staff was going to get all three of these linebackers on the field, but everyone was saying Stutzman and Owegbu play the same position. At the end of the day, when you've got really good players, you find a way to get them on the field. And that's what they're doing.
Ron keeps receipts.
I do, because I remember reading what are you talking about? There's no way that they're both going to play. They're both going to play, and all three of these guys are going to play, and that's just what it's going to be. And Brandon
Candace going to play too, babe.
I mean, yeah, he might be a rotational guy, but yeah. I don't think he's a starter, this season at all.
I mean, again, just it's like almost like I've talked about with a couple of other positions. The offensive line, we all agreed that it was going to look like what it was, and it was. I think this linebacker class is kind of the same, similar to Clayton Smith. There was no Kobe McKenzie or Kip Lewis listed on the depth chart at all, and I think that maybe it's because they're freshmen and they're going to be redshirted. I think that's probably the case with them. It's less concerning to me to see Kobe and Kip not listed. Jaden Rowe and Gentry Williams also not listed on the depth chart. And you guys know how I feel about Jaden Rowe. But I think all those guys are just going to get redshirted. And that's the reason that they're not listed. I was worried about Clayton Smith. Well, that's really the only takeaway I got from the linebacker group. I mean, the starters, I think we all kind of saw that being the guys. I'm with you.
So I feel like I'm going to get heat for this. Maybe from you guys, but probably from the people in the comment section. I think there's a chance that if the coaches trust Jake McCoy to continue performing in practice and to be that number 2 guy at the Mike position, there's a chance that we see Jaron Canick get redshirted later in the season. And not because he's not talented, but coach mentioned they've tried him out at multiple linebacker positions. I think he even said that they gave him a shot at the cheetah, but they wanted to put him in one spot, the Mike position, where it'd be a little bit more of a natural fit for him to start off his college career. I think he's still learning. I think that's why we're seeing him at that number 3 spot for that linebacker spot. And if Jake can just keep staying ahead just for it doesn't even have to be by much. If he just shows that he makes a few less mistakes during practice, there's a good chance Jaron Canick gets redshirted. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it actually helps him out because he's getting to learn a little bit more during his freshman year. It's not bad to be redshirted.
I don't think it's bad, but I'm going to go against you both times you said it now because you said the same thing about Jaden Gibson, and I don't think it'd be bad for him to be redshirted either. I feel like with Jaden Gibson and Jaron Canick both, there's too much talent for them to not see the field, and I'm going to stick to that all season.
I would be more inclined to agree with you if OU did not lose TD Roof and Brendan Walker to a season-ending surgery and retirement. because when you look at this, you're only two deep. You got Deshaun White and Harrington, and then you're two deep with Stutzman and Witter, and then you're three deep at the mic. Then all you've got left is really Kobe McKenzie and Kip Lewis behind them. What happens if someone has to miss a game? I don't know. I just feel like that Jaren Kannick's going to get on the field just because there's going to be heavy rotations. Someone gets hurt. It's a limited position group, I feel like, as far as after losing two guys, as far as the available players. But I think in a normal, like if these two guys wouldn't have left the program or been hurt, I would think that he would have redshirted. But, I guess we'll have to see. We'll have to see.
Definitely fair.
In the cheetah spot, we talked about Deshaun White, Justin Harrington. I think before we got on, we talked about that. I know, Jose, you said that you feel like this is going to be interchangeable depending on the matchup and depending on what the defense or the offense is rolling out. For more speed, maybe Harrington. For Deshaun White, maybe more of a run heavy, or just depending on the matchups. I'm just excited to see Justin Harrington. I feel like both those guys are going to play at that spot all game.
So. Agreed.
Yeah, all right. Coach was super high on Harrington during his press conference today. He was asked about him directly, and because I guess I know the cheetah position is kind of new to us too, but it doesn't seem like it's that hard of a concept. And they've asked him like 7 different times and probably a million different conferences to explain what the cheetah position is. Essentially, it's just a versatile defender that can play a lot of positions, and that's why I think this isn't going to be a spot where we're always going to see Deshaun White and we're always going to see Harrington. I genuinely think that there could easily be an or there all season, again depending on the team that we're going up against, situations. Because if it is going to be a team that's going to be a little bit more spread offense, where we're going to see more wide receivers and tight end situations, Harrington, I would think, has more speed than Deshaun White. Not that Deshaun is slow, but he'd probably be matching up better against a tight end or in a run against a run heavy team.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to talk corners here. One corner position, Jaden Davis is the starter. And then number 2 is Kendall Dennis. My takeaway on that position, that cornerback spot, those are 2 guys that were kind of probably looking elsewhere if this staff was not coming in. Kendall Dennis, Clemson was his number 2, is between OU and Clemson. So he definitely liked Brent Venables and his style and his defense. And it seems like, Jaden Davis, he needed a fresh, clean slate. Both those guys did. And now they're cornerback 1 and 2 at that single cornerback spot. Look across the field. Woody Washington is the starter. There's no or. DJ Graham's 2, Kenai Walker 3. I will sit here and say that I did not pick Jaden Davis to be a starter, over the last month or so. But I do remember talking, I don't know if I said it or someone said it or you guys said it, that Jaden Davis was a guy that needed a clean slate and he has nothing to lose and everything to gain. I can't remember who said it, but I know we talked about it on this show at some point. And obviously he had everything to gain, and look at him now. He's a starter. Jose, what do you think?
I think the best part about this is when Venables was asked at his press conference today about this specific spot and Jaden Davis being the starter. His response to the reporter that asked why he's the number 1 is, who did you expect to be there? Like, why is this a surprise? And I think that's a fair question. Like, yeah, it's surprising to us as fans, but they're the ones seeing them every single day on the practice field. Like you said, he got a fresh start, and Jaden Davis is taking this and rolling. Like he's earned his spot. It seems like they really like his tackling ability. Venables talked about he wants corners out there that can play on both sides of the field. So they're confident in Woody and Jaden being able to swap, or if there's ever an injury, if they need to be specific matchups with specific wide receivers, they're confident that the guy can just follow their wide receiver rather than having to stay on one side of the field.
Shout out Jaden Davis. I mean, none of us picked him to be the starter. He obviously earned it, so good for him. But I I don't have the depth chart access on me right now. My phone is currently being used as a light, and I don't really remember it. But is Kenai Walker and CJ Colden listed on the depth chart? Because I think both those guys, okay. Are they listed at safety?
Kenai Walker's at the number 3 behind Woody Washington, and CJ Colden is listed as an or with Joshua Eaton on the other cornerback spot.
I think both of those guys are going to play a lot this season. I know it might not look it from the initial depth chart, but I think they could eventually push for Jaden Davis' spot. Kenai Walker's a guy that Brent Venables specifically mentioned. Again, I can't remember what show because as I talked about earlier, he's been on a bunch of stuff this week. But Kenai Walker and I think even Colden are guys that he kind of singled out and talked about who have been playing strong, have been doing this and that. I think they will both eventually push their way into the lineup, which is why I kind of think this is, again, it's a fairy dust depth chart to start off.
Yeah, I still think there's something to take away from this depth chart.
Yeah, I think CJ is that low in the depth chart because he didn't come in with the rest of the transfers in the spring, and he's still doing a lot of catching up because he, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but he did enroll in the summer. So he's only been here a couple of months. So he's doing a lot of catching up where I don't know, maybe Kenai had a situation where he was hurt and had to miss a little bit of time, but I think I'd be more confident CJ coming in and getting more playing time this year than Kenai Walker, just because Kenai is behind DJ Graham, who's really experienced. It'd be harder for him to surpass DJ, I believe. And this is a situation where I would accept being wrong, rather not the Anthony Evans situation. I was right there, but it's harder. I just don't see Kenai having an easy path to get even in the 2 deep position. But who knows? I mean, those depth spots, I think, is where we're going to see a lot of rotation for the next couple of months.
Yeah, definitely something to watch. And I'd like to see Kendall Dennis get on the field too, in some packages and some rotations. Obviously, he's been showing something that the staff like. Okay, the final 2 positions, strong safety and free safety. Billy Bowman is the starting strong safety as of right now. Trey Morrison and Damon Harmon are listed as an or behind him. Billy Bowman has been pretty much locked in and settled in as a strong safety. Not much of a shock there. I still think that Trey Morrison finds his way on the field in some sort of capacity, just with his veteran leadership. Free safety, Key Lawrence or Justin Broyles as the starter, Robert Spears Jennings or Damon Harmon at the number 3 and 4 position. Key Lawrence, Justin Broyles, I think it has to deal with the different personnel packages, matchups against different teams. I just think that Broyles even might drift over the cheetah position as well. I think Broyles and Lawrence and Bowman are seeing the field a whole lot, and with Harrington as well. I think you're going to it's tough to say exactly with the free safety, but I think you're going to be seeing a lot of guys back there. Brandon, what do you think?
Hold on. So you're saying that you think Billy Bowman is going to play more than the starting is Key Lawrence is the starting free safety, right? That's what he's listed as?
Well, he's listed as an or. Key Lawrence or Justin Broyles at free safety.
I think Key Lawrence is going to play more than any safety we have on the roster. Like, how would he not?
Otherwise, bro.
The depth chart is again fairy dust. Key Lawrence was the best player in the defensive back room all of last season. There's no reason.
That's last season, and that defense wasn't very
Billy
good.
Bowman was shit last season. As much as talented as he is, and as excited as we are to see him, he was shit last season. And you're sitting here telling me that he's going to play more than Key Lawrence? I think Billy Bowman, this safety group. Hold on, the safety group. I do think that Trey Morrison's going to play, and I do think that Justin Broyles is going to play. Justin Broyles has been there for too long to not play. He's going to find his way somewhere, and Trey Morrison been playing college football since 2001. So, like, they're both going to make their way onto the field. They're both going to play in some capacity. But I feel like I kind of don't want the safeties to be messed with very much. I think Key Lawrence is a dog. I think Key Lawrence is borderline the best player on the defense in general. The dude's a freak. He can play safety DB. He was so good last season. There's no reason for me to believe that he's going to forget how to play football, but I don't subscribe to that.
I mean,
And Billy Bowman has all the talent in the world, so I would like to see it a perfect world where Billy and Key just play so damn well that they kind of just force they kind of just force their way on the field. No one else plays all season would be ideal, because I think that is the most exciting part of the secondary is those two.
he has had his ups and downs this fall, this summer practice. So
He was the best player on the field last season.
Yeah, and how much stock do you take into last season when this whole defense, when they ran 3 plays?
A lot.
Sounds good.
I mean, I think
I will have no Key Lawrence slander. I'm sorry. I'm pissed off. You guys, I'm about to leave this show.
We're not slandering him, but I mean, it is telling that he is being challenged by Justin Broyles for the starting free safety position. And maybe that's where we'll see more rotation. I think that free safety spot, those two are competing for 1 and 2. But another Broken Arrow product in RSJ being there competing for the number 3 spot, pretty good. Fairy
dust depth chart.
It does seem like Billy Bowman has separated himself from the rest of from the pack at the strong safety side, on the strong safety side.
And strong and free safeties are total different positions. So I feel like Billy is not going to have much.
Key Lawrence is the best defensive back on the roster.
I would
take it to the bank. No,
Woody Washington's better.
Woody Washington's a star. He's not Key Lawrence good. I'm a Key Lawrence guy. I'm about to buy his jersey just because you guys hate him. Since you guys hate Key Lawrence, I'm going to get a Key Lawrence jersey.
We don't hate him just because we disagree with you.
That means you hate him because you're wrong. Because Woody Washington was on the team last year, and Woody Washington is the second best defensive back on the roster. But it's a fact that Key Lawrence was impactful everywhere he played last season, was far and away our most reliable defensive back. And you guys are just like, yeah, you know what, he did it last year. But he forgot to play football since last season. He doesn't know what it means anymore.
It didn't take a whole lot to be impressive.
He was actually impressive, though.
I'm just saying that he's good.
Just saying, y'all need to put on some tape from last season and watch Key Lawrence fucking dominate people before you slander him again.
We're not slandering the guy.
Slandering.
Literally,
Billy Bowman plays more.
This fairy dust depth chart is this is what the coaches are saying in practice.
It's a fairy dust depth chart.
So you're telling me that you're questioning Brent Venables and the rest of the defensive staff?
I'm just saying, no, like
one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. That's what you're doing. You're telling me you hate Brent Venables?
I love Brent Venables.
That's not what
Key Lawrence is the best defensive back on the roster.
Brandon just thinks he knows more than Brent Venables.
No, I don't. I never said that either. I'm just saying.
So now Brandon.
First of all, guys, Billy Bowman is the guy that we're so excited for. He was the most shit defensive back we had last season. It's a fact. And there's multiple reasons for it. I think he was thrown around all over the place. He was young. There's a lot of things. I think Billy Bowman's going to be really, really, really good. I really do. But he was the worst defensive back we had last year. And you guys are sitting here saying he's better than the best defensive back we had last year. And that's just what
because that's last year.
I can't.
Yeah,
no.
This year, Billy Bowman has separated himself when he's got.
So you're saying Key Lawrence forgot to play football?
No, it's my turn. Billy Bowman has gotten coaching for one spot. He's got put in a position to focus at the safety position. He's not being thrown around to both corners, slot, safety occasionally. Like he was playing every single defensive back position. And so was Key Lawrence. And Key Lawrence, you're right, did amazing last year. But now that there is Billy Bowman at the strong safety, he has separated himself as a strong safety, and it looks like he's going pretty much unchallenged for that number 1 spot over there. I'm not saying Key Lawrence is bad, but I think that actually has a lot more to say with how much Justin Broyles has improved with this staff if he is competing against one of the better defensive backs we had last year. Like Key Lawrence definitely has, I think it's Key Lawrence's spot to lose, not for him to win. Like Justin Broyles really has to impress for Key Lawrence to not be the starting free safety. But it looks like it's possible with how the coaches are seeing it at that spot.
I don't know. I hope the safeties, like I said, I hope the safeties pretty much stay like 80% of the snaps, at least Key and Billy, because I think that's the most fun duo we have in the defensive back area. I want those guys both the ball. But Key Lawrence is the best defensive back on the team.
Yeah, I don't know.
I agree. I hope it's those two safeties all year.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that Billy Bowman will be the constant back there in the safety position.
I hope Key Lawrence has 3 interceptions in week 1, so I can just
hope so
come over
too.
here to the show and be like, "You guys hate Key Lawrence," and he balled, and I was right.
I hope he has 17 interceptions this season. I'm just saying that I feel like Billy Bowman will play the most out of the safeties, just because Broyles and Lawrence play the same position. So, anyway.
That was fun.
Yeah. Anyway, the last group, specialists.
Do we have to talk about specialists? I'll be surprised at all. Matt Turk is really, really good. He won the job.
Matt Turk. I've never met him before.
Michael Turk. Matt Turk used to punt for the Dolphins.
Yeah.
We've been podcasting for 4 hours now. I forgot who the punter was. Michael Turk.
Michael Turk and Zach Schmidt. What I really want to talk about were the punt returners and kick returners.
Yeah,
punt returners, Marvin Mims or Eric Gray or LV Bunkley Shelton. I think it should be LV Bunkley Shelton.
I think it should be anybody but Eric Gray. And I agree with you, because I don't want to see wide receiver 1 back there. That CeeDee Lamb getting hit against Iowa State, although he wasn't injured. You guys know the play I'm talking about? He got smoked in that, like, helmet to helmet. I think I've always hated the idea of putting one of your best receiver back there as a returner on punts. I think it's just all bad.
And then kick returner Billy Bowman or Major or Farouk. So Billy playing multiple spots, being versatile. I mean,
they want the ball in his hands. We do want the ball in his hands. Yeah.
But Jose, you have any thoughts on any of the punt returners, kick returners?
I mean, I agree. The number ones that we're seeing on here are the playmakers, the guys that Marvin Mims with the ball in his hands. You trust him 100%. Billy Bowman has the athleticism and the potential to be in that spot. And the guys behind them, I mean, they're good too. But I think the number ones are kind of, as much as we hate it, I feel like we're scared of the injuries, but they don't happen as often as we mentally expect them to. They're not gonna. The likelihood of them getting absolutely smoked and out for the game isn't as high as we expect it to be. But it is scary. No doubt, it is scary to have your number ones out there in that phase of the game.
I agree with you, as the injuries don't happen as much as we talk about and stuff, and you're right. But people don't also house punt returns as much as you'd like to put a player like that back there. I feel like they're more likely to get hurt than scoring a punt return touchdown. So I just think just put a fast dude back there. We talked about Gavin Freeman. I feel like Gavin Freeman would be a dynamic punt returner for us, kind of earn playing time, but he's not even listed. So, I mean, what do I know?
Tracking the ball on a punt isn't the easiest thing when you're going up against a decent punter.
Yeah. So we're over the hour mark. I don't know if we've ever recorded one, at least in recent memory, over an hour-long podcast. It was quite a bit of debate and back and forth, and I thought it was pretty good. Do you guys have any final thoughts before we wrap this thing up? All right,
Brandon hates both Drake Soups. It's been established now for months. And today we found out that he hates Brent Venables.
You hate Key Lawrence. I was just defending my brother.
I complimented Key Lawrence. You're questioning one of the best defensive minds in the country.
No, I'm not.
Which makes me believe
in BV we trust.
He's not very good.
I think you're stupid.
You don't.
I think that.
You don't trust him because
I trust him.
Sure.
Just end the video challenge. We need to talk about this whole Billy Bowman Key Lawrence debate here. Who's right? If you watch the whole video, that was the best part of the video. We should lead with that. Somehow cut the video to where that starts the show and then run it backwards. Kind of let's Benjamin Button this video. Let's start with end the video challenge and work backwards to the last thing people see is Brum's 44-minute intro. If we can do that.
Yes, it was about 44 minutes.
I'm kidding. But yeah, let's settle the Billy Bowman Key Lawrence debate thing here in the end of video challenge.
Who plays more, Bowman or Key Lawrence, and why?
Boom.
So, all right. Well, if you did make it this far and you still haven't been subscribed to this channel or haven't hit the subscribe button, I don't know what you're doing. Hit the subscribe button. It's easy, free, helps us out a ton. Like the video, do the in-video challenge. Follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And then if you're listening to Apple or Spotify, be sure to leave us a review on there. And we're doing our live stream Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Central. I failed to mention that at the beginning of the video, so probably not many people are seeing this at this point, because probably not a lot of you are watching past an hour, but maybe some of you are. And we will catch you guys Friday.